There are so many celebrities that say they can't speak French, but we're gonna see how good they actually are. I'm French, I live in Paris, and you've been sending me so many videos of celebrities speaking French asking me to rate them, so today that's what we're gonna do. If they get a 10, it means that they are so good that I actually think they're French, and there's a few people who made it, and if they get a 0, it means they are so bad that they sound like Joey from the TV show Friends.
Je m'appelle!
Mais Poupou!
And for the first time ever, there's also a few people who made it. Our next celebrity is Sigourney Weaver. So you've probably seen her in the last Avatar movie, where she plays this character. But maybe one thing you didn't know is that she was in one of my favorite French TV shows called Call My Agent in English or 10% in French. And in this TV show, her French is just perfect. So just from hearing her, I thought she was perfectly bilingual. But I've read in interviews that she says it's not the case and that in real life, her French is not that good. So let's listen to a recent interview of her in French for the promo of the new Avatar movie.
Si je suis ici pendant 2 ou 3 semaines, ça améliore.
Et vous avez appris à quelle occasion et à quel âge notre langue?
J'ai commencé à 6 ans, je crois, à l'école. Et puis, ma famille habitait dans le sud pendant peut-être 15 ans. Je suis ici pour un peu d'été chaque année et ça a changé ma vie vraiment.
Qu'est-ce que vous aimez en France?
Ah, la lumière, la langue, le marché, les plats du jour, the crème caramel.
I love hearing her speak about what she likes in France. I don't know, it's really enjoyable when you hear someone speak about your country this way. As for her level of French, I think she's being very modest in interviews because her French is really good. As she said, since she doesn't live full-time in France, maybe she needs a bit of time to adapt when she comes back to France, to get the music of the language and the words back. But I feel that's pretty normal. You know, when you're not practicing a language, you tend to forget a bit about it. So I'm gonna rank her an 8 out of 10. You can obviously tell that French is her second language, but she's very good at it. And also, I love that she's taking some risks because she was in a fully French role and she was really great with it. Now let's check out Shakira. So we all know who she is, but one thing I find super cool about her is that she can speak around 7 languages to varying degrees. So she can obviously speak Spanish, her mother tongue, and English, but I've also heard speak Catalan, Portuguese, Italian, Arabic and French.
J'ai toujours ressenti une connexion spéciale avec les gens de la France et je suis profondément reconnaissante de tout l'amour que je reçois de vous. Merci pour être ici.
First of all, she has such a beautiful accent when she speaks French. I don't know if you agree with me, but her accent is so enjoyable to listen to. And also, her French is great. It's great that she's taking some risks, speaking to the press. My personal rules for languages is that if you speak a bit of the language in that country, you should try your best to speak it. And here I love where she's coming from because she actually learned a bunch of different Romance languages. And that was kind of my personal mindset too in learning languages. Like, since I grew up speaking French and Spanish, it was easier for me to speak Italian, and I can also understand Portuguese really well because I've trained my ear, and also Romanian, but a little bit. So if we rate her purely on her level of French, I'm gonna have to give her a 5 because she makes a few mistakes. She's also looking for her words, but I'm gonna bump her to a 6 because I love how she's taking risks and just trying to speak pretty much any language she knows. Now let's listen to the #1 most requested celebrity, Kristin Scott Thomas. So every time I make one of the videos in this series, I get so many comments about her. And by the way, please keep commenting with the celebrities you want me to react to because that's how I make these videos. So please keep sending me names and keep sending me videos you want me to react to. Alright, so if you're not French, you've probably seen her in these movies. But as a French person, I've seen that in these movies where she actually speaks French. So before I tell you how she actually learned French, let's watch this interview where she talks about her first ever role in French.
J'étais tellement timide que je n'osais pas parler, donc je fais beaucoup de mimes pour ma première année. J'étais encore étudiante, je crois, à l'époque de Jean-Pierre Mocky. Je crois que ma première phrase, c'était pour un téléfilm, et j'avais « Votre train est à 2 heures, monsieur ». Et je peux vous dire que je l'ai donné avec une telle conviction. J'étais vraiment « Votre train est à 2 heures, votre train est à 2 heures, votre train est à 2 heures ». Enfin, j'ai fait plein de choses comme ça, et j'étais très contente.
I love this. I don't know if it's just me, but whenever I've learned a language, I've rehearsed things just like that. So like I remember my first phone call in English or in Italian, you know, I was like rehearsing because I was so stressed. So I fully understand that, especially when you're an actress, you know, you need things to be perfect, especially with the accent. I think we can all hear her. She's so good. She has a very, 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 very slight accent, but the reason her French is so good is that she has always loved France since she went there for a language exchange when she was a teenager. So she has also lived in France since she was 19 years old, and she actually came as an au pair. So she lived at some French lady's house, and she was maybe taking care of the house or the kids in return. Then she went to acting school in France, and you know, fast forward a few years, now she is actually French. She has the French nationality. She even has this medal, which is called La Légion d'honneur, and it is a pretty big deal because it's France's highest civilian honor. But anyway, with all that in mind, let's listen to the next clip where the interviewer asks her whether it's hard for her to play a role in French.
C'est très bizarre parce que j'ai beaucoup de mal à m'exprimer en anglais et en français aussi. Donc j'ai autant de mal à dire les choses que je veux dire dans les deux langues. Donc c'est vraiment pas une question de vocabulaire, c'est juste m'exprimer, c'est difficile. C'est pour ça que j'aime m'exprimer en tant que quelqu'un d'autre, avoir un texte déjà préétabli par quelqu'un qui... Et voilà, c'est pour ça que je suis plus à l'aise à dire des choses importantes à travers un personnage que moi toute seule.
So it's so interesting that she says that because she really talks about how it's sometimes hard to say what you want to say in any language. But anyway, I think her French is so good. She's obviously so integrated into the French culture since she is French. She has like the tiny slightest accent and a tiny British vibe. So I'm gonna rate her a 9.9999, just taking a tiny point off, because even though I've seen her in many roles in French, I knew she was British. And you know, you'll see later, there's someone who fooled me. But another celebrity who got the French nationality recently, in a bit more of a controversial way, is George Clooney. So when you request the French nationality, you do need to have an intermediate level of French, and you also pass a culture test. And you know, I think that's a good thing. And I personally think the language level should be even higher, because getting nationality means you're fully integrated into the culture of the country and that it's now part of your identity. Like, for example, I'm definitely an advanced English speaker and I know a lot about the US, but you know, you'd agree that there's no reason for me to have the US nationality because I'm not fully integrated yet. I live here in France. And I know this is a touchy topic and you're welcome to disagree with me in the comments, but let's hear George Clooney speak French.
Bonsoir, mes amis. C'est un honneur d'être ici, you see. The final award of the night is for...
All right, so I'm no French teacher, but this is not very good. He's not even capable of saying this is properly. He says c'est when it's c'est, and that's like French 101. That's like the first thing you learn in your first ever French class. In French, we have a bunch of letters we just don't say for whatever reason. That's kind of one of our main things. And you know me, for anyone else, I'd give a point for effort. But I'm actually expecting way more of someone who has French nationality. So I'll have to give him my first ever 0 out of 10. I've never given this rating to anyone before, and I'm even gonna add a sad frowny face to the rating. And seriously, I never thought I would put her 0 because I always appreciate people trying to speak my language. I find that so cool. And also I think that it's of course totally okay to not speak French or not be good with languages. But I don't think George Clooney being French is fair to people who are actually taking the time to learn our language and our culture. Like, for example, my dad is from the country of Spain, and he decided to get the French nationality in his 50s after 30 years of living in France, and he still had to take a language test and a culture test. So can we please have the same standards for everyone? So obviously that's my opinion. Let me know in the comments, do you agree with me? Do you have another take? And also let me know what your other ratings are. I'm really curious to know. Oh, and by the way, to end the George Clooney debate, he actually agrees with me, and he has said in an interview that he's a lost cause in French. And one thing you should do do if you want to start speaking a language is to create a habit with it. And for that, I recommend Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is a long-term partner of the channel, and honestly, it's one of the most effective ways to start learning a language without feeling overwhelmed. What makes Rosetta Stone different is that it's designed to mirror the way you learn your first language. So no matter how you learn, by seeing, hearing, or doing, Rosetta Stone will adjust to fit your style. And it's way more than just an app. You get immersive lessons, pronunciation tools, live classes, phrase books, audio for on-the-go learning, basically everything you need to start speaking with confidence. They also have this feature called True Accent. It listens to how you speak and it gives you feedback on your pronunciation. At the moment, Rosetta Stone is offering an exclusive 60% off their unlimited language subscription, giving you unlimited access to one of their 25 languages for life with just one payment. So if you've been waiting for the right moment to learn a language, this is the perfect time. Just click the link in the description to check out this limited time exclusive deal. Our next celebrity needs no introduction. Marlon Brando is obviously famous for these movies, but one thing I didn't know about him is that he loved Tahiti. So Tahiti is this very, very beautiful French island in the Pacific, and it has been on my list for so long, but that's not the point here, so let's listen to this interview of Marlon Brando.
C'était une nécessité parce que j'ai fait les amis en français en France et tout le monde a rigolé à table quand on a mangé et je comprends pas et j'ai obligé parce que je suis tellement ennuyeux de rester silencieux et triste quand tout le monde a rigolé.
So yeah, learning French because you want to speak French with your friends at the dinner table is such a good motivation, especially in a French context where we spend a lot of time eating. In terms of French, he makes a few mistakes, but you can see him trying his best. And that's a level that's like really perfect. It's like all you need to speak French with your friends at the dinner table. Now let's listen quickly to the other languages he speaks.
Et j'ai parlé un peu tahitien, j'ai parlé un peu japonais, allemand. Allemand? Vous parlez allemand? Un peu.
So we all knew that Marlon Brando was iconic, but now I find him even cooler knowing that he has taken the time to learn the local languages when he's traveling. So if I had to rate him purely on his level of French, I'd give him a 6, but that's really all you need to have fun at dinner with your friends. Also, just wanted to add that unlike a lot of celebrities who say they speak French, Marlon Brando took so many interviews in French. Next, let's talk about Luke Thompson. I first discovered him in Bridgerton, which is a show set in London in the early 1800s. I haven't watched the last season yet, but I like that it focuses on him because he's one of my favorite characters. So let's listen to him speak French.
Bonjour. Ah, vous ne vous attendiez pas à ce que je parle français? Eh bien si, c'est parce que j'ai grandi en France. Et j'aime tellement la France que je vais même venir vous voir très bientôt avec le reste du cast pour la première mondiale de Bridgerton saison 4.
So yeah, I was not expecting him to speak French, especially with a native accent. You can probably hear it. His French is perfect. And apparently he grew up in France because his dad was an engineer for Disneyland Paris. He went to an international school, and I could personally never have guessed that he is probably French because he looks very British to me. I don't hear any kind of accent, but this is a promo video, so I want to hear a real interview.
Qu'est-ce qui me manque de la France? C'est un peu un cliché, mais le vin, la bouffe, ouais, tout ça, juste le vin, la bouffe. Ça c'est la chose que j'ai vraiment emporté avec moi en Angleterre. Je bois énormément de vin. Le vin français.
Same.
Ouais.
Okay, now that I see him in a more natural context, he has a very French way of answering these questions. He says he says la bouffe. I feel it's like exactly how I would personally have answered this question too. So I don't know his nationality status, but to me he is French. But yeah, when you're learning a language, it's important to be realistic because when you start at an early age or you go to school in that language, it's gonna of course be so much easier than if you try learning that later in life. But don't let that discourage you. Our next celebrity is Connor Storrie. And he's really new on this list because he was kind of unknown before he starred in Heated Rivalry, which is a Canadian ice hockey romance that has gotten a lot of attention lately. And you know, since I don't know too much about hockey and I usually don't like my shows too spicy, I was afraid I was not gonna be into it, but I really enjoyed it because the acting is really good and it's also a multicultural show. One thing I loved in particular is how one of the leads, Connor Storrie, seems to be speaking perfect Russian in the show. He's from Odessa, Texas, and apparently he he didn't speak any Russian before the show. That's all I say on this topic because I don't speak a word of Russian, so I had to confirm it, but he seems pretty legit. But anyway, the rest of the cast is from Canada. A lot of them are bilingual and grew up speaking Quebec French, but that's not the case for Connor's story. So I was super surprised to see fan clips of him speaking French. And you know, these are just a few words, but he seems pretty good. So I decided to investigate, and then I found this interview where him and the other lead, Hudson Williams, who is an English-speaking Canadian, have to guess the meaning of Quebec French expressions.
Hi, I'm Connor Storrie.
Salut, je m'appelle Hudson Williams. La shop.
I am sad at the shop.
Non, ça va mal. It's not going good. T'es qui d'eau?
It's like a bird.
T'es qui, toi? T'es qui d'eau?
Oh, okay.
Allez, t'es qui d'eau? Écœurant. Écœurant. Like it's like quand tu manges quelque chose et c'est écœurant.
Écœurant.
Genre, tu manges du chocolat et c'est
J'aime pas le
trop-
Gauthier,
c'est
ouais.
écœurant.
Comme des garçons.
Oh. Ah bon?
Ah, c'est écœurant.
Des bites?
Des bites? Des bites?
Des bites?
So yeah, if you're French from France, just now I googled that last one and it means bug in Quebec French. If you're not French, kind of sounds like something else in French. That's all I'll have to say about that. But anyway, back to Connor's story. He speaks a very good French. He only has a very light accent. And I discovered that he spent his junior year of high school in France. And he has already had roles speaking French in movies. So yeah, consider me curious. Connor's story really seems to have a talent for languages. And I would love to see him give long-form interviews in French because he seems very good at it. Also, I love how open-minded they are in this clip. You know, as I was saying before, you need to have a bit of fun when you're learning a language. And, you know, it's good to not be too serious. All right, now one of my fave celebrities who's also a French speaker, Timothée Chalamet. So he has recently been doing the promo of his new movie Marty Supreme, which is a ping-pong drama set in the 1950s, and here he is on French television.
Ben oui, c'est une histoire de famille. Ça, c'était avec mon oncle Éric Chalamet. On jouait au Chambon-Lignon, où j'ai passé beaucoup de temps en grandissant.
Love the old school photos of France in the early 2000s. I have many photos of my own that look like this.
Où vos grands-parents habitaient?
Il y avait ma grand-mère qui habitait au Chambon. J'ai passé beaucoup de temps en Ardèche, en Haute-Loire, en grandissant. Et là, cet hiver-là, il y avait Éric Chalamet et Thibaut Chalamet chez moi à Los Angeles. On a joué encore et j'ai mis la raclée. J'ai pris la fierté américaine côté Chalamet et je suis montré que je suis Timmy Supreme, comme a dit Joseph D.
So if you didn't know, Timothée Chalamet is French-American. He grew up in the US, but he came back to France quite a lot in Chambon-sur-Lignon with his family. And one reason why I love following Timothée Chalamet is throughout the years and throughout the celebrities video I've been making, his French has gotten so good. Last time I said something quite controversial about him, which was that if he wanted to sound fully French, he would have to say the American names with a French accent. And he did say Los Angeles this time, which is how we say it in France. I think he's gotten so good through the years that I would love to see him in a French-speaking role, and that's exactly what the interviewer asks him.
Là, mon accent dans le dernier extrait que vous avez montré était horrible.
Oh non.
Je dois bien travailler sur mon accent. On se moque de moi sur Internet en disant qu'il ne sait pas très bien parler français. Mais je dois dire, quand je passe plusieurs mois à la fois en France, l'accent s'améliore.
So he was comparing himself to a clip of a few years back, and it is true that his accent has gotten so much better. He still makes a few mistakes, amélioré instead of amélioré, but you know, who cares? Like, native speakers make mistakes too, and you know, that's not a big deal. He's doing like amazing. Also, he talks about the fact that, you know, when you're away from your second country, your level kind of decreases a bit. And you know, that's the case for me as well when I come back to Spain, because I've never lived in Spain, but half of my family lives there. It always takes me a few days to get back into the swing of things, so I get it. So yeah, all I have to say is that I do notice the effort he's putting in his French, and I want to see him in a French movie. So you know me, I can't make one of those videos without talking about Jodie Foster. It seems I'm her #1 fan, and as some of you know, I only discovered she wasn't French recently. All my life, I thought this lady was French. And that's because she has starred in French movies in French with a French accent that's not noticeable for me as a French person. And the most recent one was Vie privée or Private Life. And in her most recent interview, she's being very open about how, even at her level, some things can still be hard.
Mais il y a des mots qui sont très difficiles. Alors, par exemple, il y avait des phrases qui étaient trop difficiles à dire. Alors, on demandait à Rebecca de les changer. Hein, par exemple...
C'était quoi?
Je sais pas. Mais c'est quelque chose comme le mot écureuil.
That is so funny that people find that hard because, first of all, like, she speaks French just like I would speak French. Maybe if I didn't know her, I would think she's from the north of France. I'm from the south of France, so we have like different regional accents maybe. But I wouldn't think that écureuil would be hard for her. And also it's like the second time écureuil is mentioned in a video. Is it a hard word? I know French people can say squirrel as well.
Squirrel.
So that might be it. So yeah, that clearly shows you that learning a language kind of never ends. Even when you have a native level, you need to still be curious to keep improving. So anyway, I hope this video inspired you to learn a new language. If you want to check out the other videos from this series, I'll link them here and I'll see you there. Bye for now.